Okay, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. I am hopeful you're watching this real time because you are supporting us as a Patreon patron or as a YouTube subscriber, and if you are, that's great. Thank you. Anything helps. A couple bucks a month, I think, is the YouTube subscription, so not much. If you are doing neither of those, but you have an Amazon Prime account, Amazon will pay us if you link your Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. The instructions are below in the show description, so please try to remember to do that. We get paid if you do that. You have to relink that each month, but if you do, we get paid, so thank you. If you're doing none of those things, you're watching this a week late, that's the price you pay for not paying up. And the other price is you have to follow me on Twitter at Michael Pachter. Today's question from SIFTD from Erebus Jones. Microsoft hasn't increased the price of its games to $70 yet, but Activision has. Assuming the acquisition goes through, will Microsoft increase the price of its game to $70? Or will Activision's games drop back down to $60? How will this affect prices of Activision's games on PlayStation platforms? Will they stay at $70? The answer is that Microsoft doesn't believe in $70 games, or they would be there, and they will continue to be at $60. Sony does believe in it, and if Sony recommends that a price be $70, then Activision, as a Microsoft-owned entity, will probably charge $70. So on the PlayStation it'll be $70, on the Xbox it'll be $60. That'll happen. Be interesting to see if Sony bitches about that. I'd love to hear them bitch about that, because to bitch about that, they'd say, yeah, we have a right to continue to gouge the consumer for an extra $10, and Microsoft is interfering with our right to gouge the consumer. That's a really bad losing argument in a court of law. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, by the way, you can charge $70 on Xbox. I'm sorry, $70 on PlayStation and $60 on Xbox. You can get away with that. Microsoft probably will resist charging $70. My guess is Microsoft will ask Sony to keep the price at $60 on PlayStation, and Sony should embrace that because it's not their first party title, and so Sony only gets 20% of the unit economics on a physical copy and 30% on a digital download, and so it's a difference of $12 versus $14 for physical and $18 versus $21 for digital. Who cares about $2 or $3? And it's consumer friendly to keep it at $60. So my guess is Microsoft will use this as an argument when they agree with the FTC that they will continue to support PlayStation. They'll say, we'll support it, but at $60. What's the FTC going to say? We reject that. Gouge the consumer and charge them $10 more. No chance. So if Microsoft says we're going to make a gift to consumers of $10 on the PlayStation, how is that bad for Sony? It's not. So the answer is, it's a good winning argument for Microsoft to prove why they're a better owner of Activision than Activision being independent. So we'll see. Anyway, I don't know. I've never been in favor of raising the price to $70. I thought it was just a money grab. It was wrong. And by the way, the guys who claim that it costs more to make games now, that's bullshit. I mean, it costs marginally more to make games. It costs more because they're putting more in games, not because of the tech. It is not $10 more expensive to develop a game for PS5 than it was for PS4. No. It's maybe 2, not even. Probably 1. Call of Duty is probably 10 cents. They spend the same every year regardless. Sony recommends that everybody charge $70. Take-Two charges $70. They recommend everybody charge $70. They recommend it, but everybody hasn't gone along with it. Activision did go to $70 though for Call of Duty, yeah. And I don't think they went to $70 for anything else. I don't think they made anything else.
They don't release anything else.
Yeah. I had to think about it, but EA does, and Take-Two charges $70 for everything. So we'll see. That's the recommended MSRP, but nobody's required to do that. So no, Sony, if Sony recommends $70 and Microsoft charges $70, Sony can't argue anything. Today's question from SIFTD from Lil Fish. Hey, Pac, do you ever see a day where we can just pay a monthly fee and play every game available? Is this even a profitable business model? What kind of monthly charge would it take to make it worthwhile? I hate having to pay $60 or $70 for each individual game. I would be happy to pay more than that per month if I could just play everything, but how much is enough? Wow. I'm going to answer this with human nature as opposed to specific knowledge about what anybody's going to do. I asked the question once of 6 different guys who ran the home video division of 7 studios. So I knew 6 of the 7. And I asked them why there wasn't an all-you-can-eat movie option on the video-on-demand pay-per-view for the different cable systems. So I said, if you charge like, $5.99 for one movie, right? Each movie was $5.99. Why don't you have a package where I can pay $30 a month and watch all the movies, right? And 6 for 6, they go, we'd get screwed if we did that. And I said, wait a minute. There's only, between those 7 studios, this is back in maybe 2010, 2008, something like that. I said, between you 7 studios, there's only 130 movies a year made, right? So, let's just call that 11 per month. Every month there's 11 movies. I go, what are the odds that anybody wants to watch all 11 movies? Nil, right? Because there are people who will never watch a horror movie, and there are people who will never watch a romantic comedy. So I go, come on. I said, realistically, what am I going to watch? 6 of the 11 that come out every month? So instead of collecting $36, you're guaranteed $30. And their perspective, well, why would you pay $30 for that if you're only going to watch like 6 movies? And I go, because I want the option to watch whatever I want when I want to watch it. So if I get, like I had mono, I remember when I was a kid, I had mono and I was stuck at home for like a week and I just watched TV, 20 hours a day. And yeah, I would occasionally, but not year round, but I would pay $30 a month for that option. And they said no, and they're wrong. So the truth is, out of 130 movies a year, maybe you'd be interested in 50. And realistically, you would watch 24, 2 a month. You might watch 4 occasionally just because that interests you, but you'd pay more than it would cost for pay-per-view because you'd have the option. So they're crazy, right? So you're asking the same question. There are a lot of games you would try if you were paying $60 a month for every game made, and yet they wouldn't put them on the system. They'd be like, well, wait a minute, how do we get paid? The game companies. And the answer is, in my example, they'd get $4 for each movie you watched, but they couldn't get that much if you only paid $30 a month and you watched 10 movies. So they'd take the $30, they'd probably pull back 10 for the cable system, and the other 20 would go out. If you watch 2 movies, they pay out 10 each. If you watch 10 movies, they pay out 2 each. And they're afraid they get screwed, and they get paid 2 instead of 4. The game company, same thing. They'd be like, oh my God, what if you played my game for 100 hours and I only got $10? I'd be screwed. And the problem is they don't trust each other, and they don't trust human nature enough to know that you're going to actually settle in and play 1 game a month. And you play the shit out of it for a month, but it would end up being like you owned it, right? And you'd finish it and you move on to the next game. And the reason you'd pay the $60 is because your first month you try 60 different games for an hour each before you figured out which 5 you want to play next. And I get it. I get what you're asking, but I'm telling you, and I said this on a prior episode, there's a reason Activision has never put its games on a game streaming service, because they don't trust that you would, instead of buying Call of Duty, you would play Call of Duty and they'd only get $10 once instead of 60. They don't trust it. And there's a reason why Take-Two is so defensive of Rockstar titles. And there's a reason why EA Sports titles are only on catalog and not on current. They don't trust human nature, and they think that somehow they get screwed. And so their view is, the guy who buys every game, there is a guy who spends $180 a month and buys 3 games a month and just does. And they're like, well, that guy would go from 180 to 60, and we get screwed. We lose $120, and that's the problem. I remember having the conversation with a CEO. God, I might as well give it away. I was talking to Andrew Wilson back in 2014, whenever he first became CEO of Electronic Arts. And I was talking to him about FIFA Ultimate Team and FIFA. And at the time, back in 13 or 14, FIFA sold, let's just call it 20 million units because the math is easy. And they said of the people who bought FIFA, 70% played Ultimate Team. So 14 million, just to stick with these numbers. And then they said about half of them spend money in Ultimate Team, right? So literally 10 million people spent money in Ultimate Team. And I said to him, okay, so you have 10 million people and you're generating, $600 million a year from 10 million people. Why? And I go, why wouldn't you just make FIFA Ultimate Team free? And he goes, well, then nobody would buy FIFA. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I said, why don't you make FIFA Ultimate Team free and give anybody who buys FIFA $60 a credit in Ultimate Team? And he goes, well, wait a minute, but then the 10 million people who spend, $60 each are going to spend zero because I gave them $60 and we lose $600 million. And I said, no, they spent 120. And he disagreed with me. And he's the CEO. It's his decision to make. I play free-to-play games. You give me money, I spend it, and then I realize what it's worth. And, since that question and answer session I had with Andrew, who's, again, I love the guy, and he's smart, and he's entitled to run the company the way he sees best. We've discovered things like Fortnite Season Pass, or Battle Pass. And the Fortnite Battle Pass, you spend $10, and if you do all the daily tasks over the season, you get back $10 worth of V-Bucks. How is that possible? You spent $10 and you got $10 worth of stuff, and 3 backpacks and 3 gliders and 3 skins and a bunch of other shit in the game. How could they possibly give you back your $10? I mean, because then, and you can use the V-Bucks to buy the next season pass. So, just thinking about Fortnite instead of FIFA, you would never spend the $10 again, right? You'd only buy one season pass and you'd roll it, right? And we all know Fortnite generates zero revenue from season pass. And they make no money because everybody does that, right? Or in the alternative, no, they generate literally $3 billion a year from 75 million people, which is, $40 per user, which is pretty much all 75 million buy a season pass every quarter. That's the math. I mean, they spend other things. I'm just going to give you simple math. It's like, no, you give people $10 and they spend more. So your question about the season pass for games, it's the same thing. It's that the guys who run the businesses are afraid if they give you $60, all the games you can eat for $60, the $180 spender won't spend $180 anymore. And they're right. But I'm saying the $30 spender will spend $60 and will enjoy more games. And so my question for the movie guys was, I rent probably, no shit, 5 or 6 movies a year. And so I spend for real $30 or $40 a year. I promise you, if there was a $30 all-you-can-eat subscription for new release movies, I would do that in a heartbeat. And you know who would lose? Movie theaters. Because I know I've paid for it, right? I know for sure I'm getting Top Gun. So I don't have to go to the theater. As opposed to, well, Top Gun's going to cost me $6 later. It's going to cost me $10 now. I might as well go to the theater. If I know I'm getting it as part of it, my God, I'll never go to the theater again. They were really dumb because they gave up a big revenue stream. The video game guys are the same. I use the Andrew Wilson anecdote to say he is a very thoughtful, rational, good businessman, and he has a point that the high spender might spend less. Fortnite proves that the no spender spends more because you give them a lot of value for their $10. And so I agree with you. I think $60 a month would be plenty to support the ecosystem. Multiply $60 a month, which is, I hope it is $720 times a year, times, let's just call it 200 million gamers. That's $144 billion. I mean, if you could get 200 million console owners to play every game, the console business would be 10 times as big as it is. You would sell so much more content. Everybody would make so much money. Now, will all 200 million people pay $60 a month? No, because they can't afford it. But you could have tiers, where for $10 a month you can try one game a month to your heart's content. But for the month you can only play one game. For 20 you can try two. For whatever. You could segment it. And you could raise a lot of money. Brilliant business idea that'll never happen, because the powers that be are too afraid that they would lose something. And the guys who have to make this decision, they don't get paid more if it works. They lose their job if it doesn't. So it'll never happen. It's a great idea. It'll never happen. And so I want to go back to Andrew Wilson. Andrew's right. If he did what I said and FIFA's Ultimate Team sales dropped, he would have been fired. And if he did what he thinks is right, and he did, FIFA Ultimate Team went from 600 million to 800 million to $1 billion, kept growing because he was right. And I still marvel why they don't make Grand Theft Auto Online free to play and get rid of the paywall. And the difference is that Strauss gets this. Strauss Zelnick's gonna do this because he understands it. And I honestly think that's something that's coming in 2023. So mark your calendars, GTA Online, free to play, no purchase required, and you watch that thing explode, like take off. Because there's a lot of people who will play it who don't have a console, don't want to buy GTA, and man, put it on Game Pass and watch that thing explode. All right, fellow babies, thank you for joining us on Pachter Factor. If you're a Patreon patron or YouTube subscriber, we really appreciate the support. You're getting the show real time because of that. If you have a Prime account, Amazon Prime account, please remember to link it to your Twitch Prime account. It costs you nothing. Amazon is happy to pay us as a perk for you being a Prime member. So the instructions on how to do that are in the show description. If you are doing none of those things because you're just way too lame to figure it out, at a minimum, you've got to follow me on Twitter at Michael Pachter, and you're getting the content a week late as a punishment. So following me is an even bigger punishment, but follow me because it's fun. See you next time.